Hi, good evening. I'd like to call this special called Berea Board of Adjustments meeting to order. And first thing we'd do is recognize visitors. If there's anybody here that would like to address this board on anything that's not on the agenda tonight, now's the chance to do that. And seeing none, we'll ask for review, approval of minutes for September 25th, 2024.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the minutes as presented for Wednesday, September 25th, 2024.
Katie moves to accept the minutes. All in favor?
Second.
Thank you. Is there a second? Denise seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. The approval for the minutes for September 25th, 2024. And we have no old business, so this will be the start of the public hearing portion, and witnesses will be sworn in. So I think we'll go ahead and start with you, Amanda, and just give us an overview.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. This evening we'll be discussing a conditional use permit at the tract outlined in blue on your screen. So this is at the corner of Richmond Road and Wildwood Way. It is a commercial lot so Stony Creek is a PUD, planned unit development. And with each PUD, there is adopted a PUD layout, which shows how each of those mixed uses, which is the idea of a PUD, where we have both commercial, multifamily, and single-family residential, a mix of those uses. There's a adopted PUD layout for this subdivision, and on that PUD layout, it shows this particular lot being a commercial / business / retail. So not much to go on in terms of what uses would be allowed. The reason I've asked them to come before the commission for a conditional use permit is our regulations and our land management and development ordinance say specifically to PUD that compatible residential, neighborhood commercial, and it cites B1 specifically, public and semi-public uses may be combined provided the proposed location of the commercial activities will not adversely affect adjacent property or jeopardize the health, safety, and general welfare of the public. The Planning Commission may place limits on the amount of commercial development and shall not allow the development of commercial areas until those residential areas are completed or are developed. So, as you know, much of that Stony Creek is the residential area, and so when we look at how are mini storage or self-storage facilities classified in our LMDO in terms of a B1 use, they are conditionally permitted, thus making the request for a conditional use permit for a self-storage facility. And we have the applicant and their legal counsel here this evening to represent you.
Well, great. I should back up and just identify that the new business is a conditional use request for a self-storage facility, as you said, in a B1 PUD minor business district planned unit development zone at 101 Winding Branch Drive, and the business is US 25 Commercial LLC. And yeah, feel free to come up and
This evening, I'm Stuart Olds, and I represent the applicant, US 25 Commercial. Sorry about that. Represent US 25 Commercial. This is its application for conditional use to build a storage facility on the property that Amanda just showed you. And she has a nice drawing pulled up that will show you where all the residential units are currently located. The unit that we're looking to build these units on is 1. If I come in the main entrance and I turn right, it's that lot that's right in the, what I'm going to call the right front corner of the development. That lot is currently 5.69 acres, and we are asking for the conditional use permit for 2.79 acres of that property. And that one up, Ms. Haney's gonna pull up one additional drawing here. And so that will show you, on the left of that, the bigger parcel is what we're asking for the conditional use permit for. On the right, along Wildwood Way, will be a vacant lot right now, which we would anticipate some other commercial use eventually being constructed. And the smaller lots that you see, we would anticipate those becoming townhomes. I guess Ms. Haney has talked about this a little, but first question is, why is it appropriate to put a storage facility in this property? It's appropriate because it's zone PUD. It was determined by your planning commission and your city commission when this area was developed that it's given its size and scope, and I wasn't here, but the reason they would zone, given its size and scope, it would be appropriate to have a mix of uses in here. Other commercial uses that would provide some of the services that those residential units need without having to leave the development. I think in the last few years, we've seen a little more PUD zoning that we never saw before. And part of the reason that I think we're seeing that is because we realize that putting those residential uses and commercial uses in proximity to each other reduces traffic and allows people to have some things close by. They don't have to drive from this property to Berea or Richmond to get to a storage facility or whatever other commercial uses might occur in there. Second question maybe is, why is a storage unit appropriate in the area? So as you know, a large part of this development is apartments, duplexes, and homes. Those homes, most of, I think, were built on slab foundations, as all homes we're building nowadays are. Maybe they were a little smaller than what they were 20 and 30 years ago. And those folks don't have places, they don't have basements where they can store their things. There is a need, and therefore we see some storage facilities coming up for people that are living in the apartments in this area, and even those folks living in the homes, to have a storage facility that would be in close proximity. Another thing I want to point out to you is I pointed out that row of townhomes because that row of townhomes will act as a visual block of this facility from the residential area that's there. You will see it from US 25, and maybe you'll see it from the end as you turn in, but those townhomes would block the view of these from those residential areas. I know that's pretty short and pretty succinct, but I think given that it's zoned PUD and the anticipation was these types of uses were going to come there, and the question is just, is this the appropriate type of use? And suggest to you that it is for those reasons that I've stated. Anyone have questions?
I have a question. Do we anticipate there will be another entrance to 25 from, I guess that would be the south
To the right side of that?
to the left side?
Oh, to the left side of
To
that.
the left side.
I'm gonna let Ms. Haney answer that. She would know better than I what's anticipated there in the future.
We anticipate there will not be another entrance right there.
And if memory serves, there is one entrance and only one entrance into this entire development, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And I recall, I don't know if it was at this meeting or maybe I watched a planning and zoning, there was some question about additional developments and there being some questions about traffic and access to that they were going to hold off or slow down the development.
There are certainly some things that need to be worked through for additional development. I will say that when those discussions these big users of sewer? Are they big users of water? Are they big traffic generators? And before this development could be built, again, we're really looking at it in terms of use of the land is the reason for this meeting. Before anything could be constructed, it would go through a development review process where we would look at it for all those technical requirements to meet utilities and then those folks would have to approve or deny whether they could serve this property. So again, really this evening, we're looking at, is this the right use of the property? And if so, then are there conditions that should be put on a conditional use permit, subject to, again, development would be subject to a formal approval through that technical review and possibly planning commission, depending on how it falls within the city's regulations.
So I have a question. Is this gonna be like a 24-hour facility? Is it gonna like have gates and be locked, or how's that gonna work?
Mr. Sowers, who would anticipate building this, if you all approve this is here, it's my understanding it would be gated and locked. In terms of 24-hour, usually those are punch codes. So those folks who could come at any time of day. I think that would be anticipated, yes. One other point I'll make, guys, is I've been at your planning commission meetings a few times over the last couple of years. And when some of the builders and developers were asking for approval to construct more residential units in this development, and I think Ms. Haney will confirm, each time I'm there and they're asking for more apartments, more houses, one of the things your planning commission asks is, hey, this is a PUD. Where are our commercial uses? When we approved this, we understood there would be some other uses here that would provide some services for these folks, but everybody just keeps coming back with more housing. So I think, again, it was their intent and the city commission's intent that these type of uses would come to the area.
So just to be clear on the technical review, just for understanding's sake, Amanda, so in terms of a conditional use, approval of the land use for that condition, so anything that might preface that, like, what I'm wondering about is what's the status of Winding Branch Drive at this point, but it would have to meet city requirements before that business could develop.
Sure.
Correct. Okay.
So yeah, at this point, what we have is a tract of land on a recorded plat. But for that to be developed, we obviously have to get, now, some of the infrastructure is in, so there's some storm boxes down Winding Branch Drive. But those, it certainly is not paved, and it does not have curb and gutter, and those things that would be required for a city street. And so that would again be part of maybe the same review, maybe a different review, depending on how they submit it, but very likely two different reviews where we would have a review to do the infrastructure and then to create this parcel, because this particular parcel is just one piece of this larger tract. So we would have to have a few steps to get to a developable area, a developable point, right? So we've got to make sure that the lot's a recorded lot, we've got to get the infrastructure in, and we have to have an approved development plan. So, a lot of red tape, as they say.
Would any of those steps come back before this body?
Not before the Board of Adjustments.
This is a little different than what we normally
It is,
deal with.
yeah, it is.
And I guess the reason for my question is that, we're talking about pieces of property there, they're in another zone, conditional use for that sort of thing, like, short-term rentals, things like that. But it sounds like to me that this is the first step in a multi-step process
That's
to
correct.
see this, this or any other development come to fruition.
That's correct. So, again, when we look at land use, we look at what does the city's regulation allow, in the zone? So that's kind of our first hurdle, and that's the developer's first hurdle, is to know what am I going to put on this lot? And then from there, they can start the design work for all those other things, for sewer, water, all the infrastructure. But the first real question is, do I have approval to put on the lot what I want to put on the lot?
So are these townhomes gonna be built before or after the storage units?
We'd anticipate those being built after, Ms. Rubin, and I don't know that that's an absolute certain, but that is the intent at this point.
And then what's gonna be the distance between the two of them?
I'm gonna have to let Mr. Sowers answer that if he knows from the lot size.
Fire
He- you
separation
may-
distance is going, and I think I interrupt you,
No,
but
I
fire
appreciate-
separation distance at a minimum is going to require 20 feet from the property line, and then we would also require a buffer, because a landscaping buffer, because now we are separating a commercial use from a residential use. So I would anticipate at least, with driving lanes and a landscaping buffer, just off the top of my head, I'm gonna anticipate at least 35 feet from the property line,
Okay,
30 maybe.
okay.
And those folks who buy those townhomes will know that the facility's gonna be constructed, and most likely it's gonna be there, so they'll be buying with the knowledge.
And I do sense that this gets out of the scope of the Board of Adjustments, but I'm just curious, with this conversation about the Stony Creek Way not not for whatever reason likely to be an intersection with 25. There would have to be, well, I guess on paper it is a road right-of-way, and it has the road frontage necessary, even though it's not built as such. Because it's been approved to be divided in this way already. Yeah,
It is an existing legal lot.
right.
I'm not sure if I understand the question in terms of, is there a question about subdividing the land?
Yeah, I mean, with the subdivision, it would require a certain amount of road frontage, but we're talking about a road that's not gonna get built
Oh,
now.
Winding Branch Drive, so the road, along the frontage of the townhomes
Mm-hmm,
would become a dedicated public right-of-way,
yep,
be built to city standards, eventually accepted into city maintenance, so that would become the frontage as opposed to,
but you
again,
still,
on paper,
yeah,
you could say it has frontage along Richmond Road, but there's no true access
That's
from
right.
Richmond Road,
gotcha.
with the exception of the existing boulevard entrance at Wildwood Way.
We just, we'll understand that the development of this is gonna meet city regulations for that access,
Sure,
and leave it at that.
yes.
Yep, okay.
Ms. Haney, I've worked with her a number of times, and she's very nice and very helpful, but she will make sure that we follow all the rest.
She has a lot of answers for us, for this board,
She is
so,
very
oh, yeah.
knowledgeable, yes. I'm gonna have a seat. If you all have more questions, just let me know. I'll be glad to come back up.
All right, thank you very much. Does anybody have any other things they'd like to discuss, or any further questions?
How many units are you think you're gonna have there? and you'll have various storage size units, or are they gonna all be like a standard? Okay, yeah.
I guess I do have one thought, and I'm not sure, Amanda, if there's any answer to this, but one thing that has been noticeable with some of the newer storage units is very intense illumination. And is there any city, like, maximum lumens? I mean, is there anything to buffer that from residential development?
As a matter of fact, there is. So we have a light trespass ordinance. Now, that certainly can be a condition that the, board, would put on this development. But we do have an existing light trespass ordinance, and you'll have to give me just a moment to find that. But we measure that at 5 feet above the property line, and it cannot be over a certain foot candle at reading at that property line. And I always tell people it's really interesting. I didn't know much about light trespass before I had this job, but I do go out about twice a year on light trespass complaints. It's a real thing. And so we do. We have it's in our Land Management and Development Ordinance, section 413, about outdoor lighting. And light trespass is considered at a height of 5 feet above the property line. Illumination from light fixtures shall not exceed 0.5 foot candles in a vertical plane on the adjacent property.
Two points I'd make with regard to the light, and that is first, that most of the lighting for this is gonna be on the buildings themselves. This won't be like a car lot where we have 30, 40 foot tall, very bright LED lighting. There may be a little of that, but most of this will be on the building itself. It'll therefore be shielded. And the first drawing that I pulled up will kind of give you an idea of the distance from this facility to all the residential units that are there. I don't, in terms of feet, I can't give you a distance, but it's a pretty good distance from the houses, and even a fair distance from the apartments that are on the left when you go in.
I've got another question. So if I'm pulling in to the subdivision and I'm looking to the right there where the storage units are gonna be, is there gonna be any kind of landscape buffer, you know, as you're going in, or am I just gonna see those storage units the minute I drive in?
There's 2 acres of lane between the plank fence.
Right,
Turn in, there's a 2 acre tract that's still vacant.
right,
And then the storage.
okay,
So you're not gonna see the storage units from first to
okay.
I'm sorry,
that's where they'll do it.
Okay, so is that,
sorry, yeah, let's, thank you.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name, please.
Patrick Sowers. Okay.
right, that's the one I've got,
This is the one he's talking about when he says there'll be 2 acres.
right. So you've just divided that into 2 tracks, right?
Well, we anticipate, you know, as Stuart said, we anticipate that with all the traffic questions, all the issues and sewer and water and all that, the storage units are the least invasive, at least that portion of the lot. There'll be less traffic, less from what we believe. So we also think that putting them in that corner, they're gonna be far enough away from the residential that they won't distract, they won't detract. And most of the lights would be shining in, not out. We would want them on the buildings because of theft and people and safety and that kind of thing. It will be gated. It will have a punch code. People can come and go. but we don't anticipate, I mean, I don't know if you've ever driven by storage units, but very rarely do you see more than one or two people there at one time. Everybody's got a different life, and once they put their junk in, they don't leave. So it's kind of how it is. But that's what I think. Now, I don't know about a landscape buffer on that side. I'm sure whatever the city ordinance requires, Amanda will make sure that we do that. But until I get the conditional use, I can't really design or lay out or, if you guys say it's okay, then we're gonna start the engineering side of this and then go through that whole process of what we'll do around these storage units. But I think putting them in that corner, they're kinda out of sight, honestly. I think the other will distract from them being storage units. And as Stuart indicated, you know, multiple times we've been asked, why isn't there some commercial use there? You know, no one's got to it yet, so I decided to give it a try, and if you say yes, we'll do it, and if not, then we won't.
So, that you said there's gonna be like 2 acres between that main entrance and then where these storage units are gonna be, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so then in that remaining parcel, that 2 acres, do you think there's gonna be, cause I was noticing on here, like a convenience store or something like that?
I can't say for sure, but ideally, that would be one of the uses that is allowed in the B1, I think, and I don't believe it's requires to come back to you guys. I think that one is allowed and it will just go through planning and zoning. Is that right, Amanda?
For B1?
Yeah.
I believe that. Let me just check.
Back to that buffer on 125, I'm thinking there's also a pretty good cut right there.
There is, there's a kind of a berm.
Yeah.
So when you come in, there's got the black plank fence, a pretty, don't hold me, but I'm thinking 3 or 4 feet down to this. So it's kind of a berm there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how we would design or lay out, and first phase was trying to figure out the storage units and then see what we could work around it. There's still a lot of hurdles to jump. The road needs to be put in, the curb needs put in, it needs cleaned up on that front side there. From my side, it just seemed like the first thing to do is the storage units, because it'll take, you know, a year and a half probably for them to build out. Be my guess, depending on how fast they fill up.
I have a question, where you have the 12 townhomes, that sits as its own, that's a separate lot, correct?
It is.
Okay,
Well, it's part of this lot, but I just showed potential use.
it's currently part of that lot and it's never been split off of that lot?
It has not,
It has not?
no. So we took the total acreage and we asked for 2.78, I think either or 9, to be for storage units, and you guys would designate that use, and then the rest would come back to Amanda and planning and zoning, and they would say yes or no. I just gave some concept or ideas that we felt would work and make that lot kind of a best use in a PUD, from my point of view. Might not be everyone else's, but we felt like the storage units were least invasive. There's no sign that no one's gonna, you know, we're a long way from trying to get 12 condos and or townhomes and a C-store. We've got traffic studies and sewer issues and water issues, and so that's a long way out.
Okay, so
So-
where's gonna be the access point to get to those storage units?
It would be off of Winding Branch.
It'd be off Winding Branch.
Based on what this drawing indicates, Ms. Rubin, it would have to be at the very end of this property on Winding Branch, way down that.
Okay.
Katie brought up something that I'm intrigued about as well. So this lot has not been subdivided. So what we're looking at is really not an actual subdivision that's been approved yet. It's a,
Correct.
Okay.
So we have a legal description, that was prepared for the particular, 2 acres,
2.79.
2.79 acres. So we have a legal description that we will include if it is approved, to make sure that
it's that part of the,
captured,
okay.
that it is just a portion of conversation about until they know how they're going to use the land. It's really just, throwing good money after bad, if you will, to subdivide the land if you're not sure how you're gonna use it. And so at this point, we would, just tie that conditional use permit again to a legal description, which is a portion of that lot.
So as far as anything else on this lot one, there's nothing we're doing tonight that would restrain whatever might take place, so that may not be townhouses, or, right, yeah, okay.
Well, I mean, and also, you know, I showed that entrance at the bottom, but, I mean, to be straightforward and honest, possibly that entrance, I would create a right-of-way further up over to that, because a right-of-way in a street to the storage units wouldn't actually be part of it, you know what I'm saying? Maybe where it shows one of the townhome lots, I created a street through there, or a right-of-way through there to a gate, which would still be, but all the storage units would be on this piece, so I don't want you to think that, you know, we got that one entrance at the bottom. I may create over to that. I would make it a multiple right-of-way. Does that make sense to you? I may use it for the C-store, and I may use it for where the commercial track, if we build a office building there, it may have a joint right-of-way over street, would you? Does that make sense?
We have just lost the internet connection. I was trying to get it back up again, but.
I have it here if you would like to look at it. That'd help you.
So I think, the idea of what Patrick's saying is move the entrance instead of at the very end down here. It very well might be toward the middle of that lot.
Yeah, instead of one of those, what looked like a townhome lot, it may be a right-of-way, or I may share the top one with the 2-acre tract that's remaining, so we'd have access to both. So I don't want you to just think that just depends on, a lot of it would depend on the engineering and the cost. But sometimes we draw stuff that we can't build. Bill doesn't do that, but some of us who have done that, okay?
Well, any thoughts?
Several, so all notices were sent as required.
Oh, right.
And in
Thank you.
response to that, I have several emails to read, into the public record whenever the commission's ready.
Ready? We're ready.
Should we see if we have audience members first, or, do you want me to read the letters first?
Oh, is there somebody here who'd like to come up and speak? Oh, please, yes. Sorry, I didn't, oversight, yeah.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do. So my name is Brett Clark. I'm a resident of Stony Creek. So first time ever doing this, so kind of not sure what I'm doing exactly yet, but I'm not anti-commercial stuff there. I mean, that's perfectly fine if that's what the plan development is. My main concern is traffic coming into and out of that area, just because mornings, nights already as it is, us going in and out of there trying to get onto Richmond Road 25, it's kind of hectic at times. We also have a pretty substantial Facebook group among all of us members there that we communicate through. In discussions about things that are going on in the community, I've never seen anybody requesting this type of service for us. Yeah, we do have, smaller sized houses with not a lot of storage in them, no basements or anything like that. But, again, it's not something I've seen us requiring or asking for or needing. So that kind of, I don't think we need that there. Maybe down the road, if as the 25 expands, if that's the plans. I don't know if that's the plan to expand it all the way down to 4 lanes, maybe at that point, doing something like that, but I mean, that's a long time down the road, obviously, for in front of that area. But that's my main comments for what's going on here. Thank you.
All right, appreciate it. Amanda?
So this says, this letter is from Tamara Fenton. She says, I own a home at Stony Creek. I'm opposed to the proposed 101 Winding Branch Drive conditional use request for a self-storage facility in a B1/PUD minor business planned unit. From my understanding of the designation of our subdivision being a PUD and Berea's planning documents, this does allow for some commercial business that would benefit the community and primarily be foot traffic-based businesses. Storage units are not that type of business. Storage units near the front of the subdivision would likely bring property values down for the entire subdivision. Storage units would not benefit the majority of people in the subdivision, many of which have private storage buildings on their property. This will bring in more car traffic to an already densely populated area where there are already concerns about having only one existing entrance. I think I meant exit or entrance, sorry. Additionally, there are already storage units less than half a mile away off US 25, and there are storage units about 2 miles away in Kingston off 421. The planning documents state regarding PUDs, increased densities will be compensated for by the private amenities and public benefits to be achieved. I'm not seeing many amenities being provided by the developers. Would the developers point these amenities out if they exist? I'm also not sure how one determines the public benefit of what goes into a subdivision. Less public green space is being planned for and provided, so to me, this is less public benefits. I would much rather have a park for kids to play in and for adults to walk in rather than storage units. I can understand that this is impacted by an HOA not being formed to fund public space development. However, I'm sure you understand that those who bought homes in the subdivision early on may have been influenced by the proposed parks, bike paths, and walkways. If you are taking away the requirement that public space be developed in this PUD, then please carefully consider what you are replacing those originally proposed plans with. Storage units and the additional traffic near this heavily used subdivision entrance will negatively impact those living in the subdivision. Please find a way for another entrance, exit to be developed. I'm not a specialist on this, but it does seem potentially hazardous if there is an emergency and we need to evacuate. The next one is from Derek Abrams. My name is Derek Abrams. I reside at 445 Middle Creek Way in Stony Creek subdivision. I hope you take both my comments and my neighbors' comments and concerns into consideration regarding the allowance of a storage building facility to be built. We are concerned with both safety and traffic increase of our neighborhood. As it stands, we only have one heavily congested entrance and exit into our neighborhood community. Construction of this type of facility would negatively impact traffic further in our subdivision. Also, with the recent rise of thefts and vehicle break-ins in the near area, this would now paint a target on our neighborhood and invite bad actors to victimize a storage facility, whether it be gated or not. We already have 2 storage facilities within 1 to 2 miles from our neighborhood. Richmond Road Self-Storage is located at 965 Richmond Road, and another more private camper and Second, the city still has not come up with a plan on another entrance in and out of this subdivision. Adding more traffic will not help solve the problem. In the event of an emergency, how do you expect residents to be able to escape currently and safely? And last, is the city not supposed to zone certain space and green space or parks per the amount of houses in the area? How come the thought of a green space or park has not been thought of instead of the developer just wanting to earn profit? Allowing rentals, duplexes, and supposedly an apartment complex is one thing, but to allow a storage unit to be zoned in a neighborhood is where I draw the line, and enough is enough. This is from Concerned Resident. As a homeowner in the Stony Creek community, I have several concerns about the proposed storage building and its potential impact on our neighborhood. Below, I outline the key reasons why this development is not good fit for our subdivision and why alternative locations should be considered. 1. Negative impact on aesthetics and property values. A storage building at the entrance of Stony Creek subdivision would detract from the neighborhood's visual appeal. Stony Creek is known for its suburban charm and family-friendly environment. Placing a commercial-style structure at the entrance disrupts this aesthetic, potentially lowering property values and making the area less attractive to prospective buyers. 2. Increased traffic and safety concerns. Storage facilities often generate additional traffic, including large vehicles like moving trucks and trailers. This could create congestion and pose safety risk, especially for families with children living in or near the subdivision. The increased traffic would conflict with the quiet residential nature of the area. 3. Potential for increased crime. Storage buildings are often targets for break-ins and many attract loitering. Placing one at the subdivision entrance could increase criminal activity, compromising the safety and security of residents in Stony Creek. 4. Negative community sentiment. Residents of Stony Creek likely chose this neighborhood for its peaceful environment and sense of community. A storage building contradicts these values and could foster dissatisfaction among homeowners. This frustration may lead to decreased community engagement and overall dissatisfaction with the neighborhood. 5. Alternative locations are more appropriate. There are likely other commercial areas in Berea better suited for a storage building that would not disrupt residential neighborhoods. Encouraging development in designated commercial zone benefits the city while preserving the character of subdivisions like Stony Creek. Building a storage facility at the entrance of Stony Creek subdivision would harm the neighborhood's aesthetics, safety, and property values. Berea City planners should preserve the subdivision's residential integrity by rejecting this proposal and directing such developments to more appropriate locations. Thanks for your time. There's several more. Hang in there. This is from Anastasia Pixler at 532 South Fork Drive. Hi, I'm a resident of Stony Creek neighborhood in Highway 25. I've owned my home here for 8 years. In those 8 years, I have seen this neighborhood boom with development. And in those 8 years, we the residents have voiced our concerns with the continued growth of our neighborhood with having one entrance and exit. During an emergency, it's impossible to leave when there's traffic or an accident at this one entrance. We have many babies, small kids, elderly seniors that reside here, and it keeps growing. We have many residents that won't make it through an emergency should one arise and the entrance and exit is blocked. We have voiced our concerns to you all. Many times it has been documented and broadcast on TV and the internet, but yet you all still continue to pass plans from the developers. You all still continue to allow developers to expand, and while knowing our concerns as people who actually live there, all while knowing our concerns as people who actually live there. It is a shame that you are clearly in these show why additional points of entry are needed. Having an influx of construction vehicles, construction worker vehicles, delivery vehicles, customer vehicles, should the storage facility be approved and built, and day-to-day homeowner traffic for a subdivision this large are reasons enough as to why we need additional points of entry. Any action other than the addition of a secondary point of entry would show that the council has no ambition other than to line their pockets with funds from whatever contractor wishes to throw them money. Thus, the council members that are against pushing to add a second entry location should be removed from their office. At this next council meeting, those council members that are opposed to adding an additional means of entry to the subdivision and their claims as to why it should not be pursued will be documented and posted to as many Berea public community forums that we can reach. This greed and indifference can already be observed by the council allowing the eyesore that is the duplexes that were put in the entrance of the subdivision recently. These duplexes were built around the area that was already supposed to be a green space for the community, but that project was axed so that more taxpayer money could be gathered from additional housing. The remaining green space is apparently getting apartment structures installed, thus taking away something else that was already planned to be for the community, which would allow this corrupt local government to corral more people into a limited space so that more tax money can be generated at someone else's expense. So we have three more. Council, I just wonder, should I continue reading, or if they're saying the same thing, can I just state the names? Or should I read them all? So we have three more.
I'm sorry.
I was just wondering, we have a few more, should I just keep reading them, or if they all say the same, can we just, or if it's similar comments, can I paraphrase them, or do
Yes.
I need to read them in?
Yes, and these comments are argumentative. They're not factual because it's not sworn testimony, and the board would consider them to be argument rather than factual testimony and evidence. So, a summary of the submission would be appropriate.
The next one, thank you. One from Ellen, Carneseca, again, just talking about, duplexes, the number of houses and duplexes with only one way in and out. Where does it stop? Please do not approve this. And, please consider a better alternative. And so those last two just paraphrased for, context. Thank you.
Certainly, yes, go ahead.
And I promise to make it quick.
Okay.
First, again, Stuart Owles on behalf of the applicant and on behalf of Mr. Sowers. Nothing we do, nothing we're requesting is going to in any way replace any obligation the developer has to build parks, walking trails, any of those kind of things. All we're looking to do is build a facility on a piece of one lot. Mr. Sowers, who anticipates building this, is not the developer. Second thing, nothing we're doing is gonna replace a park. Nothing we gonna do is gonna control whether or not the city requires another entrance and et cetera. In terms of another entrance and traffic issues, these storage facilities, once people put their things in there, my experience is they might be there just very occasionally. If more apartments, more homes, more whatever were built on this property, certainly the traffic would be substantially more than it would be from this storage facility. Mr. Sowers is not going to build these storage units if he doesn't think there's a need there. As he builds those, if he finds there's not a need, then my guess is he'll quit constructing more of those. But he believes there is a need, and he believes there's a need right there in the development. And last, when all these folks who are objecting bought their homes there, this was zone PUD. They were on notice that these type of things were going to occur. And when I drive in and I see all the vacant space there, it'd be pretty obvious to me that something more is gonna come, okay? And we think what we're doing would be less intrusive than most of the other things that could be constructed there. So we think these storage units would be appropriate.
Now, this board isn't aware of what may have transpired in the past with developments in this subdivision, but it's clear that this lot is not identified as green space in the development, in the subdivision development.
That's correct. And I'll just put up the PUD map just to show, I better connect. That is shown as commercial.
And just, I'm thinking about traffic and, you know, what could be done without, you know, an approved conditional use for storage units, which I am a little bit surprised that that is a conditional unit in B1, but so be it. Could you, Amanda, you've spoken for a long time, but could you just share a list of what uses, developments can be done in a B1 zone?
Convenience stores, general merchandise service stations, any retail stores, so apparel, accessories, furniture stores, eating, drinking establishments, drugstore, pharmacy, office supplies, sporting goods, hardware, jewelry, not motorcycles, that's conditional. Farm equipment supply, computers, electronics, retail store. Architects, engineers, land surveyors, more like business offices, so real estate offices, attorneys, tax consultants, and the like. Doctor, dentist office. Educational daycare facilities, generally classified as kind of like your, again, your neighborhood commercial.
And what type of residential, duplex, multifamily?
So in our allowable land uses, it would allow B1 zone would allow for detached single-family dwellings, duplex, townhomes, multifamily, bed and breakfast inns, bed and breakfast homes, short-term rental, residential care facilities. It would also allow for school, police, fire station, government offices, that type building. Does allow for parks and playgrounds, recreational facilities, and then another list of just business and personal services such as pet grooming, barber shop, those type of things.
Thank you. Oh, please, yeah.
Just a small comment after hearing all the emails and things. I just wanted to apologize for the attack comments. It's really all I wanted to say. That's
Thank you.
out of line, not obviously how we need to act if we're wanting something from you all in this instance. So I just wanted to apologize on behalf of my fellow residents. So
Okay. Well, I think unless there's other things that people are thinking about, a decision to be made, yes.
I just want to be clear, and I don't, you know, sworn testimony about opposition to it as well as what was the term, Jerry, regarding the things that Amanda read. Argumentative, yes. And it's not sworn testimony. I mean, I get that, and I don't mean to push that aside, but additional entrances, traffic flow, all of that stuff, is that really what we as a Board of Adjustments are deciding on here? Do we need to consider those things in our decision? Or should we consider those things in our decision? Because again, until this conditional use permit is granted or not, they can't move forward. So I guess what I'm struggling with is not in spite of the sworn testimony and what we also heard, are those things part of our decision-making process? Right, but as it was stated earlier, this is just the first step in a multi-step process before this even comes to fruition. Is that correct? Right.
Building plans, roads, all those things.
Well, again, trying to take into consideration all that we need to take into consideration, you know, it's, and in fact, I think I asked the question early on about, you know, the traffic issues and stuff related to that. I guess Jerry answered the question, you know, we should take into consideration those things. If we're just granting the conditional use permit, that allows you all to build this, or not allowing you to build this, that doesn't mean it's gonna happen. I guess is what I'm trying to justify in my mind about this. Maybe I'm going off somewhere I don't need to go. Many times in my way I try to simplify it, and maybe I'm oversimplifying it, is that should we be considering these things when we're just looking at this piece of ground, and does the use that's been stated comply with what's in the land management document?
You'll have to get sworn in though, but yes, you can say something. And,
Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. Bill Short. I actually live right there on 25. I'm adjacent to their property there. The White House right there before you turn into subdivision, that's my house. And then I'm one of the developers in the back of Stony Creek. I'm the one that owns the majority of the land back there now. And we know the problems that's going on about, I've done a traffic survey. The traffic survey states until it gets to a certain point, there's really not a problem. But once it gets to that point, then there will have to be a traffic light or something put in there to control the flow of traffic. But I want to answer your question. The question you're having out there, even though if you all approve it, they could still turn it down, planning and zoning could, because of those reasons. Is that correct? They could still say, nope, we're not going to actually allow this at this time. Even though if y'all say that, it might not ever be built because planning and zoning could say no. Just like in some of the development, they don't let me do 55 lots back there in the very back. And that was The reason being is because of some of these problems that they wanted to see how the front was being developed out and everything. I'm in the process of building some apartments in there, so it's already been approved. We're in the process of doing that. So I'm one of the people that probably subdivision's mad at, but my mother lives in there. I would never put her in danger for no reason. But the city of Berea, if they're gonna grow, we have to grow together. We have to understand that we're not gonna please everybody. You know, I get it all the time. I'm a developer. I'm the worst guy in the country. But if they ever meet me and talk to me, they'll understand I'm not that guy. I'm concerned about everybody. Especially, like I said, my mother lives in the subdivision. Got a lot of friends lives in there. So, but to answer his question, that's the reason I wanted to get up here and tell you that even if y'all did approve this for this, okay, and it goes to planning and zoning, when he gets everything designed, they can still turn it down. They can still say, no, the traffic flow, this or that, so it may not ever, but then, if you do that conditional use, I don't know, they would probably, if they wanted to change it back, they would probably have to come back, or would they still be able to use, you see what I'm saying?
I don't think our conditional use would limit to that condition to be done. Like
So
if
if
we
they just-
put a conditional use, an allowance for a storage unit, doesn't mean that is how it would end up being developed.
So anything, if they was to not build the storage buildings, anything that
They-
you,
Yes, they
They-
could do anything
anything
that
else
is
in the B1.
allowed under that current zoning.
Okay,
I
yeah.
just wasn't following the question
Yes.
there, so I apologize.
yeah,
But yes, so any of those listings, because, that particular, tract of land is zoned for B1, any use that is allowed in a B1 would be allowed and quite frankly, would not have to come before this board. Now, would be subject to development plan requirements and would be subject to all of those technical reviews that are required for any development.
And David, what I've been thinking about is, and this is why I asked what developments could be done in a B1 zone, and it's come up a couple times, concerns about traffic, but also water, sewer, density of development in general, and so the thoughts about a conditional use for an allowance for storage, it seems, you know, my sense is that that does address those concerns of density, traffic. I know there's been some discussion contrary to that, but I have a storage unit, and maybe it's the times that I go, but there's very little traffic. I'm the only one. Never wait in line at the gate.
Well, but, right, and I just think about Circle K at the top of the hill.
Yeah.
All the traffic in and out of that, not only on, coming up Paint Lick Road, but going down South 25 and I mean, Hayti Road and all that, so, but that's an allowable use without coming before this body, and, you know, traffic's horrendous up there sometimes. And it seems to me, before moving back to Berea, I lived in Gibson Bay, and that's a multi-use office building coming in there. You've got duplexes and apartments off to the left, and then the single-family residences off to the right. But there's only one way in and out of there when they close the gate for the park at Lake Reba. And there's storage buildings back in that location as well. And it's an attractive. I think the developers did a really good job of making that as attractive as possible. So,
One more question. When I look here at this plat of development, it says final major plat for Stony Creek, Tract 1, Unit 1, Block 1, Unit 1.
purpose statement. And, which is what I refer to on final plats to know what are we actually creating? What lots are we actually creating with this? This particular plat, it should be up on the screen, I don't know why it's not, but I'll just read it to you. You'll see it's kinda in that top block. It says this plat includes Unit 1, Block 1, lots 1 through 30, and 52 through 68 inclusive, and Unit 1, Block 2, lots 1 and 4. So not all of the lots on this are being recorded, if you will. It's really only a portion of what's actually on that piece of paper. So, for whatever reason, that entrance was never put in, we have a letter from KYTC that says they will not allow that. So, prior to my time, why it's on a final plat, I can't be sure of that. But again, it wasn't, but that plot, there have been several amended plats to proceed that one that deal with the other tracts of land where that particular entrance and exit, that second entrance and exit is not shown.
So there's no dedicated roadway on record at this point for a second entrance, is what you're
For a
saying?
second entrance, not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
And now again, maybe it is dedicated right of way. I'd have to research that a little bit to see if it's actually dedicated right of way out to 25. I don't know the answer to that. But again, we do know that KYTC has not in the past, and as far as I know, do not intend to allow at least that second entrance that's shown closer to White Station Road. It is my understanding that the state will not allow that entrance and exit.
When people, bought their homes or else built their homes out there, they knew this was a PUD, didn't they?
Yes, please.
It was zoned PUD, and that is a public record. Whether they made the inquiry as to what it was zoned and all those kind of things, we don't have a way of knowing. But they were charged with notice of the zoning when they bought, yes.
Well, the chair would welcome a motion.
I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the conditional use request for a self-storage facility on 2.79 acres in a B1 PUD minor business district planned unit development zone.
Motion has been made by Dennis. I'll take a voice, or is there any further discussion? I'll take, is there a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
There's three voices. A motion carries to approve a self-storage facility on a 2.2, is it 2.79 acres, as described in the application. And yes, that's the motion and the second, and the motion has been approved. All right. Call this meeting to, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. All in favor? Second?
Aye.